The afternoon sun hung low over Austin, Texas, casting long, wavering shadows on the busy streets. Austin was alive with the hum of everyday life. Pedestrians hustled along the sidewalks. The blare of horns from idling cars punctuated the steady drone of conversations, and street vendors called out their offers to passers-by. Yet amid this vibrant tapestry of city life, there was a small corner of the urban sprawl where time seemed to slow down. A worn patch of sidewalk outside a bustling intersection where Karl had found his place. Karl's life had been a long, arduous journey, a descent from stability into an existence marked by hardship and neglect. His tattered jacket, patched and frayed, was his only shield against the unpredictable weather. His boots, scuffed and worn through years of use, bore silent testimony to miles traveled in search of hope. Clutched in his trembling hands was a simple cardboard sign, scrawled with uneven, desperate handwriting: "Hungry. Anything helps." For Karl, this sign was not just a plea for spare change, it was the sole declaration of his existence, a marker of the life he had lost and the hope he still clung to. Only a few years earlier, Karl had been a man with a steady job at a small manufacturing plant, a job that, though modest, had given him a sense of dignity and purpose. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. A series of layoffs, mounting medical bills that drained every penny from his bank account, and a crushing eviction notice had all conspired to force him onto the streets. Without family to rely on or a safety net to catch him, Karl was left with little more than his own will to survive. On that fateful day, as Karl sat on his usual corner, he watched the world rush by with a quiet resignation. Cars, buses, and bicycles flowed past him like streams of vibrant energy, each carrying with it a story of promise and progress. Yet, for Karl, the world seemed to have forgotten him. A lone figure on the margins, invisible to the bustling crowd. He had long since learned to keep his head down and his eyes averted, accepting the indifference that came with being homeless. But as the afternoon wore on, something in the air shifted. Amid the usual parade of vehicles idling at a red light, Karl's gaze was drawn to an anomaly. There, glistening under the radiant Texan sun, was a sleek silver Tesla. Unlike the ordinary sedans and SUVs that typically passed by, this car exuded an air of quiet authority, a symbol of technological prowess and futuristic ambition. Its polished surface reflected not only the sunlight, but also the dreams of those who believed in progress. Karl's heart skipped a beat as he watched the car. In his world of faded hope and persistent struggle, moments like these were rare. A brief spark of beauty amid the relentless grind of survival. But what truly made his pulse race was the realization that the car's driver was none other than Elon Musk himself. A name that, in Karl's mind, conjured images of innovation, bold risk-taking, and the kind of success that seemed utterly out of reach for someone like him. For a long moment, Karl hesitated. The idea of approaching a billionaire, even in his most desperate state, seemed ludicrous. Yet, an inexplicable mix of desperation and audacity urged him forward. With trembling resolve, Karl gathered himself and rose from his usual spot. Each step toward the gleaming Tesla felt heavy, laden with both fear and the hope that maybe, just maybe, something extraordinary might happen. As he neared the car, Karl's worn-out hands clenched his cardboard sign for support. He drew in a shaky breath and tapped gently on the window. The sound seemed to echo in the sudden stillness of the busy street. Karl's voice, rough and quivering, managed a single, simple question. "Can you give me $1?" For what felt like an eternity, silence reigned over the busy intersection. Karl's heart pounded in his chest as he braced for the inevitable dismissal. The usual hurried glance of pity, or worse, the sting of indifference. Yet, as he waited, the driver's window did not immediately close, nor did the car speed away. Instead, It slowly rolled down, revealing a face that Karl had only ever seen on magazine covers and late-night television. Elon Musk. Time seemed to suspend itself as Karl met Musk's gaze. There was a strange intensity in the billionaire's eyes, a mixture of curiosity and something else that Karl could not quite discern. It was a look that suggested Musk was not simply a man behind a wheel, but a person capable of genuine interest in the lives of those around him. "What did you say?" Musk's voice broke through the heavy silence. There was no mockery or condescension in his tone, only a measured curiosity. He stepped out of the car with an assured calm that belied the extraordinary circumstances. Karl, now standing face to face with one of the world's most influential figures, felt both exposed and acknowledged, a combination of emotions that was as overwhelming as it was surreal. Karl's voice trembled as he repeated himself. I just asked if you could spare $1, he stammered. His cheeks burned with a mixture of embarrassment and disbelief. In all his years on the streets, no one had ever truly looked him in the eye. But here, in this moment, he was seen. Elon Musk paused, tilting his head as if to weigh the gravity of the simple request. $1? He repeated slowly, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Before Karl could reply, Musk reached into his pocket and pulled out a crisp wallet. Rather than handing over money immediately, Musk glanced down at the cardboard sign Karl still clutched. A sign that, to most, was a mere symbol of destitution, but to Musk now carried the weight of Karl's life story. "What's your story?" Musk asked, his tone gentle but probing. "Why are you out here?" Karl's mind raced. Most passers-by did not spare a thought for his life. They tossed a few coins and hurried on, never pausing to consider the man behind the sign. Yet here, with Musk's sincere inquiry, he felt an unexpected surge of vulnerability, a mix of hesitation and the yearning to be understood. After a long pause, Karl began in a halting voice. "I lost my job a while back, and then things just got out of hand. Bills piled up and I couldn't keep up. I've been out here ever since." Musk listened intently, his eyes never leaving Karl's face. The way he studied the lines on Karl's face and the fraying edges of his jacket suggested a deep empathy, a recognition that behind every statistic and every stray soul was a human story of pain and hope. For a fleeting moment, it appeared that Musk's normally impassive expression softened ever so slightly. Then, in a tone that mingled curiosity with quiet challenge, Musk asked, "You asked for $1, but why only $1? Why not ask for more?" Karl blinked, caught off guard by the question. "I don't know," he admitted after a brief silence. "I guess it's just easier to ask for something small. People are more likely to say yes." Musk's lips curled into a faint, thoughtful smile, a gesture that hinted at deeper thoughts. "Interesting," he murmured, almost to himself. "Most people would ask for as much as they could get." Before Karl could process whether the remark was mockery or genuine interest, Musk stepped closer, lowering his voice as if to share a secret with the world itself. "Do you think $1 would really change anything for you?" The question struck Karl like a sudden blow. A single dollar was insignificant by any conventional measure. It could never erase the hardships he faced, yet it symbolized hope, even if in a minuscule form. With his voice reduced to a whisper, Karl admitted, "I guess not, but it's something." Musk nodded slowly, as if weighing the truth of that simple answer. Then, almost without warning, he reached into his wallet, and instead of handing over $1, he produced a crisp $100 bill. Karl stared, his mind reeling at the unexpected generosity. The bill felt like a lifeline, a tangible symbol that someone as unlikely as Elon Musk, believed in the possibility of change. I don't know what to say, Karl stammered, his voice thick with emotion. Musk, however, was not finished. He placed a firm but gentle hand on Karl's shoulder, drawing his focus back to the present. I want to ask you something, Musk said, his tone imbued with earnestness. If you could do anything to change your situation, anything at all, what would it be? That single question hung in the air, its weight almost too immense for Karl to grasp. His fingers trembled as he clutched the $100 bill, caught between disbelief and a flicker of hope. What would I do? Change my situation? He echoed softly, as if testing the words on his tongue. He looked into Musk's unwavering eyes, which now shone with the intensity of someone who was not merely offering charity, but a genuine opportunity. After a deep breath that seemed to summon every ounce of courage he possessed, Karl answered, I'd get a clean start, find a place to stay, clean myself up, maybe even get a job again. I just need a chance, a real one. Musk's gaze held steady, his expression thoughtful. A clean start, he repeated. That's a good answer. For a moment, Karl wondered if his simple wish was too trivial for someone of Musk's stature. But before he could say more, Musk stepped back and folded his arms, as if preparing to deliver a verdict. What's stopping you? Musk asked quietly. Karl's answer was simple and heartbreaking. Money and the system, he said. It's hard to climb out when you've already fallen so far. Musk's eyes darkened with a shared understanding. You're not wrong, he conceded. The system isn't built to help people like you. It's built to keep things running as they are. He paused, then continued with a note of challenge. But if you had the resources, just enough to get back on your feet, do you think you could make it work? Karl's throat tightened at the enormity of the question. I think so, he managed, his voice heavy with emotion. I'd try. I wouldn't waste the chance. Musk smiled, a smile that was both gentle and resolute. That's what I like to hear, he said. The moment seemed to stretch on as Karl tried to reconcile the surreal turn his day had taken. One minute he was a homeless man with nothing but a sign, and the next he was engaged in a conversation that felt like it might alter the course of his life. Still in a state of disbelief, Karl listened as Musk laid out what came next. Here's the deal, Musk said as he reached into his pocket once again, this time retrieving a sleek, minimalist business card. Without fanfare, he handed the card to Karl. The card bore only a phone number and the name Elon Musk in crisp, modern typeface. Call this number tomorrow, Musk instructed. Tell them I sent you. They'll know what to do. Karl's hands shook as he took the card. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, a mixture of hope, gratitude, and an almost paralyzing fear of the unknown. I don't understand, he murmured. What are you offering me? A job? Musk's reply was succinct. A place to start, he said. Whether you take it or not is entirely up to you, but I'm giving you an opportunity. Before Karl could ask any more questions, Musk added, Don't waste this, Karl. Opportunities like this don't come around often. With that, Musk turned and headed back to his car, the sleek Tesla receding into the flow of traffic as if nothing unusual had occurred. Left standing on the sun-dappled sidewalk, Karl clutched the business card as if it were a lifeline. The crisp $100 bill in his pocket was more than money. It was the first tangible sign that his fortunes might be changing. For the rest of the day, Karl's mind whirled with possibilities. Could this be real? Could a man he had only ever seen as a distant icon of success actually offer him a chance at redemption? That evening, as twilight fell over the city, Karl found a quiet spot beneath a flickering street lamp. He sat there, the card clutched in one hand and the $100 bill in the other, pondering his next move. Every doubt he had felt earlier warred with a newfound determination. Perhaps, he thought, this was the beginning of a journey towards something better, a way out of the darkness that had defined his existence for so long. The next morning dawned clear and bright, carrying with it the promise of change. With the business card burning a hole in his pocket, Karl made his way to a battered public phone booth outside a small gas station. The booth, its paint chipped and its keypad faded, was a relic from another era, much like Karl himself. Yet, as he dialed the number on the card, each beep of the receiver filled him with a cautious hope. After a few rings, a calm, professional voice answered from the other end of the line. "Elon Musk's office, how can I help you?" Karl's heart pounded so fiercely he was sure the sound would give him away. Struggling to find his voice, he managed, "My name is Karl. Mr. Musk gave me this number." The response was immediate and decisive. "Of course, Karl. Mr. Musk mentioned you. Can you come to our downtown office today at noon?" In that instant, Karl's entire world shifted. What had once seemed an unattainable dream was now unfolding before him. "Yes, I can," he replied, barely able to contain his excitement. Karl spent the rest of the morning in a blend of nervous anticipation and wonder. He knew that stepping into that office building would be a stark contrast to the life he had known on the streets. Dressed in his worn jacket and threadbare pants, he still carried himself with a quiet dignity that belied his hardships. Every step toward the downtown office was a step away from the anonymity of homelessness, a step toward being seen as something more. At exactly noon, Karl arrived at a sleek modern office building in downtown Austin. The glass facade reflected the clear sky, and the hum of busy professionals inside lent an air of purpose to the scene. Although his appearance was modest compared to the polished suits of the building's occupants, Karl was not turned away. A kind-faced receptionist welcomed him and, without a hint of prejudice, directed him to the 15th floor. When the elevator doors opened, Karl was led down a pristine corridor to a spacious conference room with large windows overlooking the bustling city below. There, seated at the head of a long, elegant table, was none other than Elon Musk. The man's presence was commanding yet unpretentious, his eyes reflecting both intensity and warmth. "Mr. Karl," Musk said as he rose to greet him, extending a hand that was both firm and reassuring. "I'm glad you came." Karl's voice caught in his throat as he accepted the handshake. Seated before Musk, he felt the weight of the opportunity before him. Musk wasted no time in outlining what he had prepared, a folder resting on the table, its contents promising a fresh start. "Inside this folder is a job offer," Musk explained, sliding the folder across to Karl. "It's an entry-level position at one of my facilities. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. You'll get a steady paycheck, benefits, and access to resources that can help you get back on your feet." Karl's hands trembled as he opened the folder. Inside, neatly printed documents detailed the terms of employment. A lifeline for a man who had known only hardship. Karl's eyes welled with tears of disbelief and gratitude. "Thank you," he managed to say, voice raw with emotion. Musk's tone softened further. "I'm offering you more than a job, Karl. I'm offering you a chance to rebuild, to regain your dignity, and to show the world that no one is ever truly beyond hope." For Karl, the moment was transformative. What had begun as a bold, desperate plea for $1 had evolved into a tangible path out of darkness. With the folder clutched tightly in his hands, Karl left the office that day feeling a mix of disbelief and resolute determination. The business card and the job offer were not just symbols of charity. They were the seeds of a new beginning. Karl's first day on the job was both exhilarating and daunting. Arriving at a sprawling Tesla manufacturing facility on the outskirts of Dallas, he was introduced to a world filled with whirring machinery, bustling teams, and the scent of metal and innovation. Although he had no prior experience in this environment, the training was patient and thorough. Supervisors recognized the spark in Karl, a determination to work hard and rise above his circumstances. At the facility, Karl was given a uniform and assigned to a team responsible for assembling critical components for electric vehicles. The work was physically demanding, and every day presented its own set of challenges. The long hours, the meticulous nature of the tasks, and the need to learn a new set of skills were all hurdles that Karl faced with quiet resolve. Each paycheck was a small victory, a proof that he was not defined by his past failures, but by the possibility of a brighter future. Outside of work, Karl rented a modest room in a shared house, a far cry from the uncertainty of the streets. With every saved dollar, he began to rebuild his life, slowly but surely. His colleagues at the facility, initially curious about the man who had emerged from nowhere, gradually came to respect him for his persistence and humility. In break rooms and quiet corners, Karl shared bits of his story, his struggle, his fall, and the serendipitous moment that had given him a second chance. Yet, amid this steady progress, Karl never forgot the hardship that had once defined him. Late at night, when the city had quieted and the stars shone through a clear sky, he would sit by his window, thinking of those still left behind on the streets. The memory of his cardboard sign and the isolation he had felt became a powerful reminder of where he had come from and how far he had traveled. Determined to pay forward the kindness he had received, Karl began to reach out to those who had been left behind. He visited local shelters, offering not only spare change, but also words of encouragement and a listening ear. His efforts, though modest at first, sparked whispers of hope among those who had long given up on the idea of change. Slowly, Karl's journey became a beacon, a testament that one act of compassion could ignite a movement. Weeks turned into months, and Karl's life continued to transform in ways he had never imagined. His steady job at the facility allowed him to save enough money to gradually escape the grips of poverty. But more than that, Karl discovered within himself a resilience that had lain dormant for years. A determination to not only rebuild his own life, but to help others do the same. One chilly evening, as Karl sat in his small room counting his savings and planning for the future, his mind drifted back to that unforgettable encounter with Elon Musk. The memory of Musk's calm, probing questions and the unexpected generosity that had set him on a new path filled him with both gratitude and wonder. Karl recalled how Musk had looked him in the eye and asked, "What would you do if you had a chance to start over?" That question had echoed in his mind long after the encounter, pushing him to dream of a life where he was not defined by his past mistakes. Inspired by his own transformation, Karl began to document his journey in a worn-out notebook. He wrote about the challenges he had faced, the small victories that had rekindled his hope, and the lessons learned along the way. The notebook became both a personal journal and a manifesto, a reminder that change was possible even in the bleakest of circumstances. One day, while reading through his writings, Karl had an epiphany. His story, with all its pain and redemption, held the potential to inspire others. Determined to share his experience with a wider audience, Karl reached out to local community centers, youth programs, and even small media outlets. Slowly, his narrative began to spread, a story of a man who had once been invisible on the streets, but had found the strength to rise again. It was during one of these community meetings that Karl encountered a group of young people who had lost faith in the system. As he spoke to them about his journey, from the despair of homelessness to the promise of a fresh start, Karl's words resonated deeply. I once believed that asking for just $1 was all I could do, he told the captivated audience. But I learned that sometimes it's not about the money. It's about the opportunity to change your destiny. Every small act of kindness can be the spark that lights the fire of transformation. The power of his words became evident that day. In the weeks that followed, Karl received letters, emails, and calls from people who had been touched by his story. They spoke of their struggles, their own moments of hopelessness, and the courage they found in his example. Karl realized that his journey was far from over. It was only beginning, and it had the power to create ripples of change far beyond his own life. As Karl's reputation grew, so did the circle of people who sought to help him. One afternoon, as he was wrapping up his shift at the manufacturing facility, Karl received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end was warm and familiar. Elon Musk himself. "I've been keeping an eye on you," Musk said, his tone both approving and encouraging. "You've done well, Karl, better than I expected." Karl's heart swelled with pride and gratitude as he listened. Musk went on, "I hear you've been helping others too. That's impressive. It shows character. I want to offer you something more." Karl's pulse quickened. "More?" he asked, hardly daring to believe that his journey could reach even greater heights. "Yes," Musk replied simply. "I want you to lead an initiative I've been considering, one focused on workforce development for people who've hit rock bottom. You'd help identify candidates, mentor them, and guide them towards sustainable careers. In short, you'd be the bridge for others, just as I was for you." The offer stunned Karl. Here was a man who had once seemed to belong to an entirely different world, an innovator, a titan of industry, now extending his hand in solidarity. Karl's thoughts flashed back to that first encounter on the street, when he had asked for $1, unaware that this bold act would eventually change his life. With measured determination and a voice steady despite the overwhelming emotion, Karl replied, "I'd be honored." Over the next several months, Karl embraced his new role with fervor. The initiative, eventually christened Second Spark, grew from a modest program into a nationwide movement. Karl traveled across the country, meeting people from every background, veterans, single mothers, former inmates, and countless others who had been discarded by society. With each new success story, Karl's belief in the transformative power of opportunity deepened. The program provided training, mentorship, and resources to help individuals rebuild their lives, all while reaffirming the idea that no one was ever truly beyond hope. At community events, Karl would often stand before a crowd and recount his journey, emphasizing that even the smallest gesture, a single dollar, a kind word, or a moment of acknowledgement could ignite a chain reaction of change. "I once asked for $1, he would say, but what I received was so much more. I received the chance to begin again, to prove that no matter how far down you've fallen, you can rise. And now, I'm here to help you do the same." His words resonated with audiences, and Second Spark became a beacon of hope, inspiring not only those who directly benefited from its programs, but also communities across the nation to rethink how society treated its most vulnerable members. As Karl's influence spread, the impact of his transformation began to manifest in unexpected ways. Major news outlets picked up the story of the homeless man who had been given a chance by one of the world's richest men. A story that was as much about human resilience as it was about corporate philanthropy. Social media exploded with hashtags like Second Chance and Second Spark as people from all walks of life shared their own stories of hope and redemption. In boardrooms and at policy forums, discussions arose about the need for systemic change. Karl's story became a touchstone for debates on social justice, poverty alleviation, and the role of technology and industry in addressing societal challenges. Lawmakers, inspired by the real-life example of transformation, began exploring initiatives to create more accessible pathways for those who had been left behind by an economy that too often rewarded only the already privileged. For Karl, each new testimonial from someone who had been touched by Second Spark served as a reminder of the day he had mustered the courage to ask for help. He often recalled the face of Elon Musk as he had first stepped up to the Tesla, a face that had challenged him, recognized his humanity, and given him a chance. That moment, once so small and easily overlooked, had become the catalyst for a movement that was changing lives. Years later, as Second Spark celebrated its 5th anniversary, Karl stood on a stage in a large auditorium filled with graduates of the program. The audience was a diverse tapestry of individuals from all walks of life. People who had once been confined by the limitations of their circumstances now gathered to celebrate the power of second chances. Behind the podium, Karl looked out over the crowd, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude and responsibility. 5 years ago, I asked a man for $1, Karl began, his voice resonant with both humility and conviction. What I received was far more than money. It was a chance to rebuild my life. And today I stand here not as a man who was saved by a single act of generosity, but as someone who is determined to pay it forward. Every one of you is a testament to the fact that no matter how far down you've fallen, there is always a path forward. It starts with one moment, one opportunity, and one person believing in you. As the crowd erupted into applause, Karl's eyes found Elon Musk in the audience. A subtle nod, a quiet smile, and a look that spoke volumes of a journey shared. Musk's presence was a silent reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of innovation were not just technological, but deeply human. After the ceremony, Karl mingled with graduates and supporters, listening to their dreams and aspirations. In quiet moments, he reflected on how his life had come full circle, from the despair of a homeless man on a busy Austin street to a leader of a transformative initiative that was touching thousands of lives. In the months and years that followed, Karl's journey continued to evolve. Second Spark expanded into a multifaceted organization that not only provided job training and mentorship, but also collaborated with local governments and private enterprises to create sustainable opportunities for those in need. Karl worked tirelessly to ensure that every person who came through the program felt seen, heard, and valued. A small but vital antidote to the systemic neglect that had once defined his own existence. Through countless interviews, community events, and policy discussions, Karl became a symbol of resilience and the transformative power of compassion. His story was featured in documentaries and written about in major publications, a reminder that one small act of bravery could set in motion a chain reaction of hope and change. In quiet moments, when the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming, Karl would return to the memory of that fateful day on the streets of Austin. He remembered the fear and uncertainty as he approached a Tesla, the kindness in Musk's measured gaze, and the gentle yet life-altering question, "What would you do if you had a chance to start over?" It was that moment of recognition, an acknowledgement that his life mattered, that had lit the spark of transformation. As Karl continued to lead Second Spark into new horizons, he remained a tireless advocate for those who had been forgotten by society. His personal journey, marked by struggle, perseverance, and ultimately redemption, served as an enduring legacy, a living reminder that even in the darkest moments, hope could be found, nurtured, and shared. In the quiet moments of reflection, Karl often marveled at the simplicity of it all. A single dollar had once been all he dared to ask for, yet it was never about the money. It was about the opportunity, the courage to dream, and the willingness of one person to look beyond appearances and see the potential for change. That one act of boldness on a sunlit Austin street had not only transformed Karl's life, but had also rippled outward, touching lives in ways he had never imagined. Karl's journey was proof that sometimes the smallest gestures carry the most profound meaning. It was a story of redemption and renewal, of hope kindled in unexpected places, and of the boundless human capacity to overcome adversity. His life, once defined by hardship and invisibility, had become a beacon for countless others, an enduring testament to the truth that everyone deserves a second chance. And so, as the years passed and Second Spark continued to grow, Karl's legacy remained clear, that the power to change the world often begins with a single, courageous step, a single dollar, a single question, and a single act of kindness. In a world that can so easily overlook the vulnerable, Karl's story served as a constant reminder that every person has worth, every voice matters, and every life holds the potential to be transformed. Karl's life, from the worn-out sidewalks of Austin to the high-stakes boardrooms and community centers across the nation, reminded everyone that transformation is not measured solely in monetary terms, but in the strength of one's spirit and the willingness to seize an opportunity when it appears. His journey was not an isolated miracle. It was a celebration of human resilience and a call to action for a society that often forgets its most vulnerable members. As Karl continued his work with Second Spark, he made sure that every success story, every life that was touched by the program, was celebrated as a victory over the forces of despair. His message was simple yet profound. The smallest act of compassion can be the catalyst for the greatest change. In the end, it wasn't just about a homeless man asking for $1. It was about the transformative power of belief, both in oneself and in others. Karl's story lives on as a powerful reminder that even when the odds seem insurmountable, hope can be found, nurtured, and multiplied.